Well, it seems like the Padres are not going to get Roki Sasaki, but the Blue Jays look like they could still be in on Roki Sasaki. The Dodgers definitely in the mix. Let's get locked on Dodgers.
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yo, Dodger fans. Welcome to Locked On Dodgers. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 local sports daily podcast network. Locked On, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. From the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel makes the NFL playoffs even more exciting. And right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets. If you win your first bet, visit FanDuel.com to get started. This is a daily podcast covering the World Series champion Los Angeles Dodgers, bringing you the smart fans' perspective on our boys in blue. You can find us wherever you find podcasts and on YouTube. All you got to do is search for Locked On Dodgers. And if this is your first time listening or watching, I'm Vince Samperio, usually joined by co-host Jeff Snyder. But Jeff is out, and normally we would have done this podcast about 12 hours ago. But, Roki Sasaki hadn't made a decision yet. There was some reports from international news that he could make the decision on the 16th. So I kind of waited around, and it didn't really happen. And then at that point, it was too late. So might as well just wait till the morning. And good thing we waited till the morning, because there was some news on the Roki Sasaki front. And if you see me look off screen, that's because I'm trying to check my other screen to make sure no other news has happened. But as of right now, the latest on Roki Sasaki is that the Padres are reportedly out. Francis Romero reported that he had a few sources tell him Padres were out, that they were pivoting to signing their other international players that they had originally planned to sign. Will Salmon of The Athletic backed up the report that they were going to sign one of the players that they had originally planned to sign. Again, Francis Romero is pretty tapped into international market and everything else. So I wouldn't take, I'd take his word for sure, especially if the Padres are signing other guys. You would imagine you put that on the other side where you look at what the Blue Jays just did. And literally, as I was getting ready to do this podcast here live, the Blue Jays acquired $2 million in international bonus pool money, along with Miles Straw and cash considerations in exchange for a player to be named later or cash. So I would imagine, I don't know what that player to be named later is. $2 million is a pretty solid amount to get in terms of, the Blue Jays. So if the Blue Jays are sitting as a finalist with the Dodgers, this could mean a few things. When it comes to the Padres, obviously not until everything is done. You can kind of maybe look in and see what the Padres are, or what, you can make fun of them, whatever the case is. But as of now, it's down to Blue Jays, Dodgers. Blue Jays just got $2 million extra to throw toward Sasaki's way. And again, everything's kind of fluid right now. Everything's kind of moving in the moment. And this could mean that the Blue Jays believe they're getting Sasaki. This could mean that they want to up the ante now that they're one of two finalists. And, they were everyone had them probably as a distant third in the Roki Sasaki sweepstakes. And now that they're one of two, the more money you can get and present to him, the better. This could mean that Roki Sasaki told the Blue Jays and Dodgers, hey, I'd like more money. Or, there's a lot of different ways this can go. But it is interesting that it's all kind of happening right now. You would imagine there's going to be some kind of announcement today, no later than tomorrow, Saturday, I would imagine. So we're just going to be here live right now talking through, Roki Sasaki, seeing if anything breaks live. We'll be here covering it live. And, that's kind of where we're at. But, yeah, obviously waking up to the news that the Padres were out. As a Dodger fan, you probably felt, some sense of relief. There's people out there that have differing opinions. If you're Jeff, he's 95% of the opinion that Roki is gonna pick the Dodgers. Not quite that high, but obviously I did believe the Padres were more of a threat than the Blue Jays. And now with the Padres out, you do start thinking, Roki is probably going to pick the Dodgers. And then you get hit with the news, that the Blue Jays are acquiring money. And now you're like, okay, I'm not entirely sure what's going on. So it's kind of, been fun to see. And the best part about this, and we think about last year when it came to Ohtani and, kind of how everything woke up with that, is that the Dodgers were not going to be in a great place if they didn't sign Ohtani. They would either had to spend on guys that weren't as good as Ohtani, or they would have had to pivot, or they would have had to trade. They would have had to, maybe gut farm system, whatever the case. So it's a lot different. This year, when it comes to Roki Sasaki, the Dodgers don't have a pressing need for him. They can definitely use him, especially with all the question marks beyond the first 3-4 guys in the Dodger rotation. There's definitely it's a nice luxury to have, but not a need. And for the Dodgers, that's kind of where we're at for Sasaki. And at this point, it's just about beating out the Padres. I would imagine for some fans, like with the Padres being out, there might be some people that were like, well, if he either goes to us or the Jays, that's not too terrible. If he goes to the Jays, we'll face them maybe once a year, potentially in a World Series one day, but it's not really going to hurt you straight up, whereas the other one goes. And that's kind of where you're at for Roki. But, when it comes to the Dodgers, they don't have a need for Roki Sasaki, but definitely to get a player of his caliber, it's basically like getting a number one pick. Like if Roki was in the draft this year, I would imagine he'd be the number one overall pick. And for the Dodgers, the way things have gone the last 10, 11, 12 years, they're nowhere near the top of the first round. So for them, it's something that they haven't been able to get. Now they've done well drafting, obviously, in the back half of the first round, later in the thing. Some international signings have worked out for different, in different ways. Some have worked out in terms of trades. Some have worked out in the sense of actual on-field play and things of that nature. But when it comes down to it, the Dodgers are in a better position to absorb this than before. But that doesn't mean I don't want Roki Sasaki. Like I want Roki Sasaki to get a potential ace with team control. That, the other part is, like I said, a number one draft pick. But even with these days, with players being quicker to the big leagues, you don't normally draft someone and they're going to slot into your rotation that same year. Paul Skeens did it in less than a year. Paul Skeens, became Rookie of the Year, Cy Young finalist less than a year after a year after being drafted. And the Angels called up a couple guys pretty much right when they got drafted. And we've seen other guys in the past, but that's normally not the case. The case is normally that you draft someone, and in 2 to 5 years, depending if they're high school or college, they join your team. This is somebody that you're instantly going to get. You're instantly going to get, rewards from, in the sense of he's going to be in your rotation. He's going to be fighting for a spot in your rotation. And, for the Dodgers, it's going to be an extra arm that they can add because, like I said, you got Snell, Yamamoto, Glasnow. When people feel differently about Glasnow in the sense of if he's someone you can count on or not. But those are your top three in the rotation right now. After that, you have Ohtani eventually. You have Kershaw eventually. And then you have, May, Gonsolin, Landon Nag, Ben Kasperius, a bunch of different guys that are going to give you varying degrees of different things that you don't know what they're going to give you. So Roki Sasaki solidifies that a little bit, comes in, doesn't have the pressure. And, it's all a matter of, is that what he wants? Or, the Blue Jays, for more than a few reasons, just don't make sense to me. But, we don't know what we haven't seen Roki Sasaki. I don't know if any of us have even heard him speak. So it's kind of hard to say for sure what's going to happen. But it's a good time to be a Dodger fan, especially when you're, one of two finalists for Roki Sasaki. And hopefully, here in the next 20 minutes, we can get that announcement that he is a Dodger. If not, we'll definitely be waiting on pins and needles the rest of this today and the rest of the weekend until that decision is made. We're going to continue talking about Roki Sasaki. What does it mean once he does decide for the Dodgers, whether he chooses them or not. There's obviously things the Dodgers are going to have to do. So that's what we're going to get into. So make sure to keep it locked on Dodgers. Today's episode is brought to you by Rocket Money. Rocket Money is here to help you out if you are someone that signs up for things and then either forgets to cancel them or too lazy to cancel them or didn't realize you hadn't canceled them or whatever the case is, because they can help you find those subscriptions that you didn't know you were paying for and make it easy to track them all down. It's like having a personal assistant for your finances. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. It brings everything together in one place, whether it's subscriptions, your spending habits, or even the goals you want to hit this year. The Dodgers have become a hot commodity in Los Angeles. And if you want money to go to Dodger games, then you probably want to use Rocket Money to help you get there, because they've saved people over $500 million in canceled subscriptions, and they save members up to $740 a year when using all the app's premium features. So go download, check out Rocket Money, and get your money back. I am one that definitely signs up for things and forgets to cancel or doesn't realize, or, hey, $5 a month here, $3 a month here, $10 a month here. It all adds up, and Rocket Money is there to find it and to help you cancel it. Like, that's the best part. You don't even have to deal with all those people trying to, oh, we'll give you this deal, we'll give you this deal. And then you end up sticking with something that you didn't really want. Rocket Money is here to cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster. Just go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. rocketmoney.com/lockedon. I want to thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen of the day, or, well, today probably first listen of the day. Some days your last listen of the day. Either way, if you're listening, we appreciate you. You can find us wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube. We're here every Monday through Friday, sometimes recording Sunday night through Thursday night if we're going live. But either way, you can find us and you can subscribe to make it easier. There's a lot of people here with us on live this morning. So I would imagine you guys were subscribed and got the notification that we're going live. So appreciate that. And remember, you can be on the podcast, come Locked On Dodgers Insider by going to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers. All right. A lot of activity in the chat, obviously. And let's run through that a little bit. Mark, our buddy Mark here, says the copium begins. I would imagine that means us talking ourselves out of it if the Dodgers don't get selected by Sasaki. I don't think we're quite at that point, but it's not copium to say the Dodgers don't need Roki Sasaki. That's just a fact that they don't need him. It's a luxury. It's a luxury we all want to have, and it's definitely someone we want. But that's just kind of what the nature of the beast is when it comes to the Dodgers. We got one here. We can clear up a little bit. He said, I thought 200K is the most you can get at a time via trade. So what you can do for international bonus pool money is increments of $250,000. So you can't do $300,000. You can do $250,000. You can do $500,000, $750,000, $1 million, and so on and so forth. So that's what you can do. You can only acquire a certain amount of money. I think that obviously the Dodgers are a little bit more tapped out just because of different things that they've been knocked on the last few years. So if they both maxed out, the Blue Jays and the Padres, the Blue Jays would still have more money available than the Dodgers. But again, we don't know if the Padres, or not the Padres, we don't know if the Blue Jays are doing this because they know something, or if they know they're one of two finalists and they just want to entice the pot a little bit for Sasaki. That's something that we're not sure of yet. Looking on, keeping up to date on Twitter, haven't seen anything else yet. So it just remains to be seen if that's, going to be the decision they make, or that's just someone that, that's just something they do. And then they end up having extra money, which I would imagine they can throw on anybody the Dodgers were like. It's one of those, like, if Roki picks the Dodgers, then I guess the Blue Jays could just use that extra money on guys the Dodgers didn't end up signing, assuming they use all their money to go towards Roki Sasaki. Most of the big names are signed already, are gone already. So there's not too much there for them other than probably their commitments, any Padre commitments, and any Dodger commitments at this point. But that's just the way it goes. We have a non-rookie question here from Frank. He says, "Any news on Ohtani's pitching?" The latest we've had is that we've seen him play catch. I think UC Irvine or somewhere in Southern California, he's played catch a few times this offseason. Dave Roberts said you wouldn't expect him to pitch before May. I would imagine mid-May. Anytime you get a projection, I always probably add a couple of weeks or months or a month on it just to be sure. But yeah, I would imagine May, June. They're not going to rush Ohtani back pitching wise. They'd rather have him for the last half of the season than the first half of the season. So, but we haven't had any stern updates on Ohtani other than they believe, probably May will be when he comes back. So, let's see. Anyone else in the chat? No. A lot of guys talking about Roki on the Jays if that happens and anything else, but. Yeah, I mean, again, I don't expect Roki. Like, for me, if it was between Dodgers, Padres, and Padres were a legitimate threat, I don't see the Blue Jays as a legitimate threat, but that doesn't mean that Roki won't pick the Blue Jays. We have no idea what he's thinking. We've heard from Joel Wolf, his agent, and based on what Joel Wolf, his agent, has said, you would imagine the Dodgers and Blue Jays aren't in the same, hemisphere in terms of player development, wanting to win, whatever else they said about him, that doesn't make sense. But again, he might have just gone to Toronto and liked it, or whatever it is. There's different, ways of getting guys to commit to your team, and someone could say something, and then you could say, "Oh, I care about winning and player development," and then you go to Toronto and you're like, "Oh man, I love this city. This is where I would want to live for the next 6 years or so." And boom, bap, that's it. Like and that you can't compete with that. You just like there's some teams that can't compete with the Dodgers in the sense of I want a team that's going to win every year. Well, that's the Dodgers. I want a team that is going to spend money and not be afraid to spend money. Well, okay, that's the Dodgers. That like every team can spend, every team chooses not to spend, and that's just the way things go. But what would happen if Roki does pick the Dodgers? And let's start with that. What if Roki does pick the Dodgers? Because that's a little bit shorter of a list, and immediately, obviously, he goes through physical and all that, but it is a minor league deal when he signs. So the Dodgers don't have to have an open 40-man roster immediately. They do have one currently, if I'm not mistaken, after the Gavin Lux trade, but they won't have to open up a 40-man roster immediately. They could wait until, all the way until it's time to be able to put guys on the 60-day injured list and then add him to the major league roster. Obviously, he'd go to spring training out. I can't imagine a situation where the Dodgers get Roki and he's not on the major league team opening day. I just can't imagine, especially considering if money's all the same and everything else, like he could have went to any other team and any other team immediately puts him in their rotation. And the Dodgers technically could have the luxury of not doing that, but I don't think that's something they would do. So, he gets signed to a minor league deal. He gets the invite to spring training. Once you get close enough to, I forget the exact date when they can add guys to the 60-day injured list, they move all those guys they have on the 60-day injured list to it. And then you add Roki Sasaki to the 40-man roster and all that case. So, and that's the immediate. And after that, what else do the Dodgers have to do? They can still go after Tanner Scott if they want. They can still sign Kike Hernandez if they want. I would imagine those are really the only two moves that are on the radar at the moment. Or maybe not Tanner Scott specifically, but a top-end reliever. Kirby Yates is still available. I think David Robertson is still available. There's still guys out there that could upgrade the Dodgers bullpen. I think that would be one of the other moves they make this offseason if Roki chooses the Dodgers, Kike Hernandez is still out there. Like I said, it's possible that they've told Kike, hey, if you can just wait, we'll sign you and wait until we can get guys on the 60-day IL and we can, free up some roster spots and then we'll sign you. And then obviously you'd have different things after that because you would have to make a decision on, a guy like Miguel Rojas or Chris Taylor or whatever the case, because you're not going to be able to have all those guys that all hit right-handed and all play multiple positions on the roster. So that's the immediate after Roki is nothing crazy. They signed him to a minor league deal. They have a press conference, and Roki Sasaki's a Dodger, and then they can focus on if they want another bullpen arm, and then if they can focus on if they're going to go after Kike Hernandez. And I would imagine that's it. Like the Dodgers roster is pretty much set there. What's going to happen if he doesn't choose the Dodgers? And there's a few different things that can happen there. That's what we're going to talk about next. So make sure to keep it locked on Dodgers. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. From the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel makes NFL playoffs even more exciting. And right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win your first bet. That's $300 to keep the action going. FanDuel app is so easy to navigate, and there's so much you can do on there that, that $5 bet, you can make it as simple as I think the Chiefs are going to beat the Texans, and you can make it as complicated as I think Patrick Mahomes is going to run for 15 yards, or I think CJ Stroud's going to score the first touchdown, or whatever the case is. But if you want to make it easy, put that $5 down on something that's definitely going to happen. Get your $300 in bonus bets, and then use that $300 on the FanDuel app to do same game parlays, live betting, all that type of stuff. And the best part about it is when you win, you get paid instantly. You don't got to wait around for your winnings. You win, boom, it's in your account. You decide what you want to do with it. So whether you're betting on your favorite team or just looking to add some extra excitement to the playoffs, FanDuel has you covered. Just go to FanDuel.com to join today and get started with $300 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Want to thank you for being an everydayer. If you are one, an everydayer is just someone that listens or watches every day. We appreciate those of you that listen or watch every day. We appreciate those of you live with us right now on a Friday morning. We got big numbers. We appreciate that. If you're not an everydayer, you can just up your listens. We're here 5 days a week. If you're listening 3 times a week, up that's 4. If you listen 1 time a week, up that's 2. If you listen 4 times, now you're an everyday. If you're up, it's 5. So, just continue to listen. We appreciate you. Make sure to subscribe. Even if you are someone that is an everyday, or if you're not subscribed, you're not maxed out on how much of an everyday you can be. So subscribe wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube. And remember, you can become a Locked On Dodgers insider by going to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers. Get text directly from us, keeping you up to date with Dodger news and updates. And you can even get a special link to join a Discord server to talk with other Dodger fans about things that are going on in Dodger world. Now let's finish up. In the case that Roki Sasaki does not choose the Dodgers, what are the immediate and I guess they're not really long-term, but long-term in the sense of before opening day for the Dodgers? What can they do? Now, obviously, in the immediate, if Roki Sasaki decides to sign with the Blue Jays, the immediate is the Dodgers pivot and see which of their players that they had originally agreed to sign on the international market are still available, and I would imagine sign those guys. The other one would be to see if there's any players that the Blue Jays were going to sign that they don't have money for to sign anymore. You go look at that and maybe try to sign them. Same thing with any guys that the Padres had maybe try to sign, and if the Padres haven't signed them by then, you look into them. That's the immediate, because that money is not something you can continue. Like, I don't think you can roll it over. If Jeff was here, he could confirm that. But it's something that you want to do, and you want to make sure to secure guys when you can. And if you lose out on Sasaki, you might as well try to solidify your future by getting some other guys with all this money you have. I mean, the Dodgers don't have too much money. They got about, I think, almost $6 million. But that's definitely enough to get you some players that maybe are still available. Now, beyond that, what does it mean for the Dodgers, the major league roster? And I think if Roki does not choose the Dodgers will sign a starting pitcher free agent. Now, I don't know if that means they sign a legitimate starting pitcher free agent or if they sign one or two guys that are, maybe minor league deals with invites to spring training and see what that is. Now, obviously, you have Jack Flaherty still out there, and that could be something the Dodgers decide to do. We've talked about Jack Flaherty. We don't think it makes entire sense for the Dodgers to go out there and sign him to a multi-year deal, but if they can get him on a 1 or 2 year deal, that probably makes more sense for them. But I don't know. They could sign him to multi-year if he takes a little bit less money or whatever the case is. But Jack Flaherty would be probably the first option in the sense of the best player available as a starting pitcher if Roki doesn't sign. When you get beyond that point, like I said, you're kind of hoping stuff happens, and you just look at the next names on the list, and this is based on WAR from last year. You got Kyle Gibson, who's 37 years old, Andrew Heaney, 34 years old, Kershaw, but we're pretty sure Kershaw's coming back when he's healthy. Max Scherzer, 40 years old, Patrick Corbin, 35 years old, Jose Quintana, 36 years old. Mike Clevenger, Lance Lynn, all late 30s, mid to late 30s. So there's not really anyone that's going to be a long-term deal there. A lot of probably 1 year deals, maybe 2 year deals. I can't really see them going after any of those guys for 2 years. But that's where you're at if Roki doesn't sign and, the Dodgers want to sign a starting pitcher. It's slim pickings. Now, once Roki signs, and let's say the market heats up a little bit, and Bregman signs, and so signs, and Flaherty signs, and all this stuff. Now maybe teams might be more willing to trade because they're like, okay, we didn't get this guy. Maybe we're not gonna go all in on the playoffs next year, or hey, we signed this guy. Maybe this guy is a little bit extra, or hey, the Mariners are a perfect example. Like, hey, we didn't add any great offensive players like everyone said we should, and we still have this legitimate rotation here. Maybe we can trade for a bat. Now, the Dodgers don't have too much to offer in the form of major league ready talent, but like, could Dalton Rushing be involved in a trade for an arm from the Mariners? I guess, yeah, probably. That's possible. I don't know if Dalton Rushing's. I don't know if I'm willing to sacrifice him for a guy like Luis Castillo, but maybe the Dodgers are. We don't know, but that's kind of where we're at there. I know Dylan Cease has been rumored to be on the market, and maybe that becomes more of a reality with the Padres not getting Roki Sasaki, and that kind of hurting their chances to be better than they were last year. Maybe Dylan Cease gets traded, but would the Padres really trade with the Dodgers? I don't know. I mean, it's possible. They it's not like they've never traded with each other, but it just seems like at this point, giving Dylan Cease to the Dodgers as the Padres, you're literally helping the team that you're probably going to fight against. And then who knows? Maybe they don't care. Maybe they'll say, hey, you know what, 2025, we're going to see what happens, and we're going to try to come back stronger in 2026. And that's what a lot of realities are going to come here before spring training. So if the Dodgers don't get Roki, like, there's still guys available to go get via trade. There's not as much guys to go get available via free agency, but it's still possible. And, that's really what it comes down to in terms of the Dodgers options. Now, the Dodgers could sign nobody and be okay. Like, they have enough arms. It's just, maybe the quality of those arms isn't enough. And that's kind of where you're at when it comes down to it, because, yeah, you have Ben Kasperius, Nick Frosto coming off injury, Tony Gonsolin coming off injury, Michael Grove still on the roster. You have Landon Knack, you have Dustin May coming off injury, you have Bobby Miller, who you don't know what you're going to get out of him, and Justin Robleski, who, you don't really know what you're going to get out of him. But that's enough to put together the fact that your first three in the rotation are settled. Yeah, all these guys are going to fill 4, 5, 6 if you go 6-man, or just 4, 5 if you go 5-man until Ohtani gets here. So the Dodgers have enough arms to make this work. It's not the end of the world if Roki Sasaki doesn't choose them, but it would really set them up well in terms of you don't have to worry about making a trade. You don't have to worry about spending more money. You don't have to worry about, your rotation as much because you have a guy on, a rookie deal essentially that could slot into your number 4, 5, 6, maybe as high as 3, probably. For some teams, Roki probably slot in 1 or 2. For the Dodgers, he slots in, 3 or 4 or 5, and that's obviously a luxury. But as we've seen with the Dodgers the last few years, you want to have that luxury, and if it means quality pitching depth, that's what you want as a luxury, and that's what the Dodgers can get with Roki Sasaki. All right, so we've made it through the 30 minutes. Roki Sasaki still has not made a decision, but if you're just catching up, the Padres are out reportedly. The Blue Jays acquired $2 million in international bonus pool money, and Roki Sasaki still has not made a decision. So that's going to do it for today's episode. We could be on in a few hours again. If Roki does make a decision, we could be on tomorrow. We could be on Sunday. But either way, we're going to be back. So thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen of the day. Make sure to find us wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube. All you got to do is search for Locked On Dodgers. You can just make sure nothing happened. You can become a Locked On Dodgers insider by going to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers. You can check on Locked On Sports Today or Locked On Sports Los Angeles. Those are 2 24/7 streaming channels from the Locked On Podcast Network. You can find us on social media, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Locked On Dodgers. Jeff is on Twitter at SnyDog. I'm at Vincents91. You can DM us any questions or comments. You can also send those via email, lockedondodgers@gmail.com, or leave us a voicemail, send us a text at 323-863-5625. We're here every weekday morning, and we hope you'll be here with us. When you get in your car or if you're at home, tell your smart device, play podcast, Locked On Dodgers. And remember, you don't have to agree. You just have to listen. Have a good one.